Drift Island, the Iron Drift King podcast, hosted by Marcel Uhlig and Jacob Gettins.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Iron Drift King podcast presented by Parts 33. My name is Jacob. We have Marcel, and we've got a special guest today, Krisse. How's everybody doing? How's it been?
All good.
All good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. Congrats on getting accepted as well. Super excited to see you compete. That's gonna be a phenomenal time. I wasn't sure if you were hinting at a new project with what's in the background, if that's what you're building for it, or
no, not for drifting. No.
Okay. I always love seeing new builds, so I wasn't sure if you were just like hinting, like, oh, we're bringing something completely different this time.
I will stay in the E36. Yeah.
But you're changing the engine setup, correct?
Yeah. We are going for V8.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah. I've been driving the S50 for like 3 years now, and I had a lot of problems with it. But yeah, I think that the V8 will suit my driving style better. So looking forward.
There's a certain amount of horsepower you can get out of those before they kind of become a little bit more reliable or less reliable. And then you have to sink in a ton of money to get up to that 800,000 horsepower mark. So I get it.
Yeah, and I was always like really nervous about breaking the S50 because it's so expensive. So then it's affecting my driving, and that's not a good thing. So it's better to change.
How expensive are the V8s though over there? Like, I know obviously in North America, like, you can throw a rock and hit about 4 of them, but how hard is it to source them in Finland?
No, it wasn't hard at all, because I sold the S50 for like 12,500, and now I've been like buying all new stuff for the new engine, new turbo, new everything, and I still have money left, so it's
all right.
cheaper.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That's great.
Now everything is new and great parts, and it will last forever, I think.
I think sourcing parts in a country like Finland seems difficult for an outsider, but honestly, I think the car culture here is very, very extreme. You have a lot of Japanese cars, you have a lot of American cars, especially those classic older, American cars are very much used in Finland. So I think it's not so complicated actually, because you have a lot of big workshops in the backyard of people, where people just build their projects in the long winter, lots of time to do that.
Yeah, we have a long winter, and of course we don't have the parts like in a shop nearby, but we are used to order everything. So
got a good system.
Yeah.
It's just always from my perspective, it's always interesting to figure out how to source certain things. Just like I said, to get an LS here is super simple. I can drive down the street and go to a junkyard, and there's 100 of them sitting there. So, but then alternatively, certain BMW engines, it's impossible to find and parts. So just the difference between the two, it's always fascinating to understand.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think talking especially a brand like BMW, it's getting harder. Like also inside Europe, because those engines are very old engines already, right?
Yeah.
And especially, again, LS is a very, very old engine, but like
but they keep making them, right?
Yeah, the S50 is what, 25 to 30 years already, right?
Yeah, because it's originally in the E36. And that's why I didn't actually want to change it, because the chassis mine is original M3.
Oh, okay.
So now I'm
cool.
raping the car because I'm changing the engine.
Yeah.
So it was hard decision, but now I'm happy that I made the decision.
Nice. No, you'll like it. Just having the power down low at any time is phenomenal, and just especially just being able to kind of dig out of a situation, or in transition to be able to just push the car ahead almost instantly.
Yeah,
that'll be huge.
Because at the moment, I think my left leg is stronger than the right one because I do so much clutch kicking all the time. So I hope that I don't have to do that anymore. At least not that much. So.
It'll be a big change. I'm hoping you get a bunch of seat time in too before August, and then that way you know exactly how to drive it and can show up and just destroy everybody.
Yeah.
It's so important to feel comfortable in the car, right? When you said that you were scared to break it, I think I haven't heard anyone saying that in a long time. It was a thing in Europe, right? That no one was driving his car hard enough, or as hard as necessary, because everyone was scared to break their stuff. They didn't have the money to fix it. And I think with the S50, S52, S54 engines, it became a thing because they were so expensive to replace.
Yeah.
And if this is affecting your driving, then it's the wrong setup. Definitely, this is something you shouldn't move forward.
I'm driving like 50% because I'm afraid of breaking it. So now I hopefully can give it all.
Yeah. You basically have to be ready to sweep the car up in a dustpan at the end of the weekend. Like that's how hard you have to drive, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you drive Iron Drift King.
You
should, it's a very unforgiving track, and that's a fact. And so you have to be confident in your setup, in yourself. And I think especially wheel speed, when you're close to walls, is so important. And if you have a setup that you're afraid to clutch kick one more time because you think, okay, it's going to break in half, then this can cost you your whole car.
Yeah,
not just the weekend, not just the race. So a right decision. I'm happy that you made that.
Yeah.
If the car grips up at the wrong moment, I mean, it's just going to hook in and take the front end out. And it's tough, but that's great. I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I have a feeling you're going to love it. And it'll be a great addition to the way you drive. So it'll be a big change, but it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
So
the guy who is building it, he has an E36 with an LS. So I went last summer and tested once, and then I was like, okay, I want this. It was really easy decision after that test.
You get hooked on the power, the down low power. No, it's good. So I kind of alluded to it in the beginning, but congrats on making the cut. Marcel and I were talking. There was a lot of applications that came in, which is phenomenal. I gotta ask, like, why did you apply? Like, I don't mean that in a bad way, but like, what? Like, it's work to make it in.
Yeah, I've been there twice, 2019 and last year, as a spotter for Juha Pöytälaakso. So I know the place and I know the atmosphere, and every time I've been there, I was like, I really want to do this one day, like drive here. At the same time, I was really like scared about it. That I somehow I was almost hoping that I won't get the place because I'm too scared about it. But now I have like 6 months, and I have to build the confidence. And I know I can do it, but still, it's a different competition. It's not like any other that I have been driven before.
I could see it being very intimidating because there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, it's as close to, kind of like UFC fighting where you're locked in this cage. There's nowhere to run. It's 100% commitment in every corner.
Yeah. And there's no place to hide because everyone is around you.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. Do you mean that like in the way that if something goes wrong, like you can't just hide off in the corner of the pits and just like be by yourself because everyone's always around?
Yeah, kind of. But also in the track, it feels like because the audience is almost above you, and it feels like you said that you are in a cage. So
there's something like I said, there's something scary about it, but there's also something kind of empowering just because you're like, this is it. Like I have to perform, right? And what I think is interesting is how we've seen so many people do that and perform under that pressure, right? Like, anybody that's driving at that high of a level has gotten there because they can perform under pressure. And this is it. This is as much pressure as you're going to get because there is nowhere for mistakes.
Yeah.
So
it's scary, but at the same time, I really want to do it. So it's really a mix of feelings.
I think this is a very special thing about drifting. There's a lot of fears that you have to overcome as a driver. Yeah. It's I know exactly how you feel. I have felt like that many times, you know, and when I was still driving, and honestly, I last week I spent a few days in Sweden, you know, practicing with the guys. And for me, it was just like getting back in the car, just having a good time and talking drifting, right, in the future of it. But seeing how those guys perform on those WRC, you know, ice tires, how close they are chasing. And honestly, after 6.5 years not being in the car, I have even more respect for what the guys are doing right now on the cars that are so different than when I stopped driving. You know, I had a top level car when I stopped driving, but this is not comparable to what is happening right now. In the last 5-6 years, development has been nuts. And what you guys are now doing and how quick you have to react and how good you have to be in knowing the track, predicting what the other one is doing. And then, you know, there's so much happening. I think I have even more respect for it now after last week trying to chase and absolutely failing at it. Like, you know, like drifting, yeah, I can drift, you know, but I think chasing is something you really need to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And with those creepy tires and absolutely no space, you know, to go anywhere. And if you do, you will lose because you will see that, right? Like 10 years ago, no one has seen really the small mistakes. But now you have like what? We're going to have a top camera this year, you know, with a big drone and all this kind of shit. We will see absolutely everything that, you know, so there's nowhere to hide a mistake. So I get why this is intimidating, but if you have overcome that, you know, if you're happy with yourself after this weekend, no matter what the outcome is, I think that's one of the best feelings you can get, right?
Yeah.
Because you have beaten yourself, and that's so important. You've overcome your own fears, and that will give you a huge boost for your career.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that's true.
how are you getting ready for this? Like, obviously the car still needs to be finished, so that's step one. But after that, like, how do you prepare?
Well, at the moment I'm training in the sim because we have this winter thing here in Finland, so I cannot drive. At least it takes 2 months, I think, that we can go out and drive. But yeah, I'm driving in the sim, and after that, I'm trying to do as many competitions as possible before the Iron Drift King.
All right, that's fair. All right, do you have what's your sim setup? I know a lot of people, you know, are big into it. I don't know if you've got all the data on it, but
no, actually, I haven't been driving a lot because I didn't have my own, and Juha is not believing at all in sim racing. So the atmosphere at our house was like, don't do it. But last year I got the wild card in DMEC Finland. So after I knew that I got the wild card, I called my little brother. He has a sim that now I have to come and bring it to our place because now I have to do something. I have to train. I have to do everything I can. So I went there and pick up the sim, bring it here. I tried to drive it like maybe 2 hours, and I couldn't do it. It was really like I just couldn't do it.
It's super difficult.
It's super difficult. And then I didn't have time. We had the races and stuff like that. Then the winter came, and Juha said that, okay, now you either drive it or then you just take it back to your brother. And then I was like, okay, I will do this. I will learn to drive it. And it took like 20 hours, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. And now I can do it. And actually, my little brother is coming over tonight because now I had a new one. Now I have my own one. So he is coming here and he is going to build it for me. It's Simukube. I don't know if you know it. Yeah. I have the active pedals and stuff like that. It should be really
But
good.
SimCube, Jacob.
Yeah.
I think Rome is also using them. I think it's not the cheapest stuff around, but it's supposed to be the best as far as I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
looking forward to it. Try it and
It does take a little bit to learn how to drive because I think if you've never driven them before, you're so used to your body telling you what the car is doing, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
You can feel grip, you can feel the G-force. And then when you get in the sim and you don't get that feedback, you have to think very differently.
Yeah, it's really hard in the beginning. But a friend of mine said that when you drive it like 20 or 30 hours, then you get like a new sense. And you can feel the speed with your eyes. And I was like, yeah, sounds really like, okay. But it's true. And it happens. So now I can feel the speed with my eyes. It's true.
That's such an I've never heard anybody put it that way, but that's very interesting. I still suck at it. I'm terrible at sim drifting. But I haven't put in my 20 hours, so I can't expect to be good at it. That's all. I know. It's on the list.
I never really tried. I'm like, okay, I will sit there. I will try. 3 minutes later, I'm so dizzy because just in Sweden now I used the VR.
Yeah. You gotta. That's
impossible.
Tough.
Absolutely impossible. I almost puked onto my shirt after 3 minutes. It's absolutely impossible. Everyone who tried had the same sensation. And like a Rome competitor, he was there and he said that, if you have a crash, you have to close your eyes, because everything is spinning. And like, oh God, no.
Yeah.
It's amazing how your brain makes it real.
Yeah. And still, if I drive like few hours in a row and I don't do any breaks, and when I take those VR lights, what is called VR
glasses.
VR glasses. Headset, when I get those off, I feel like I'm moving around, but I'm not. It's really it's weird.
It's good you're putting in whatever you can though. Like I think everybody has kind of realized now, just like that's where we're at with drifting as a whole. We're like with VR, with sim drifting, with ice drifting, everything. Like it used to be there was this big long off season, and now everyone's so competitive that there is no off season. There's countless people that have moved, at least in North America, to California and to Florida. So there is no off season anymore. They just drive. Guys from the north where we do, I still get snow where I'm at. They'll move down to Florida so they can literally practice all year. And I think that's where we're getting with competition now.
But that's great. I think that is, I would say finally we're there, right? It's not good enough anymore to just apply being accepted and then showing up. It's just not making the cut anymore. And that's what we always wanted. We wanted that drifting is not just something we do for fun. No, it's a whole market, right? And people practicing all year round also, of course, is feeding that market, because you need to build a car, you need to buy tires or whatever you do. Or you, in your case, Krisse, and many others, you buy a sim. It's also economically. I think it's very important that drifting makes sense economically. We are still not 100% there that everyone is winning here, but that's what we are trying to accomplish right now with the IDK. But I mean, like, I think it's great that there is no off season in a sense anymore. I think it's a full-time thing, and that is also great, because any real motorsport, if we're honest, or any professional sport is a 12-month sport, right? If you're not doing what you're supposed to do on track, you're practicing somewhere else. That's why a lot of race drivers, they fly to Spain, to Mallorca or whatnot, to go on a road bike just to get their cardio in, or like this. I think it's all part of it, and I think it's great. So many more stories to tell also. It's not just, here's a car, I broke a nut or something, and I replace it. No, it's so much more, right? You have more to tell about yourself, and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. Actually, next week we are having like this sim drifting competition. Everyone takes their sim to this mall. I don't know if you know it, Marcel.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Idea Park.
Yeah. Idea. Yeah, I know it.
Yeah,
Yes.
the big one. So I'm going there. I'm not on the level that I should do drifting competitions in the sim, but I will do it because it's good for my head.
Yes, it's important, getting out of your comfort zone and
Yeah.
and to get back to the Iron Drift King here. And I think that is so important. You remember 2-3 weeks ago I called you, right? You were in Thailand in vacation, and for me it was 4 o'clock in the morning on my way to airport. And and I explained to you why you got a spot, right, at the Iron Drift King, and exactly that attitude is why you got the spot. We focused mainly on, and I think we will do an own episode about how we chose drivers and stuff, but we focused mainly on the performance of you guys. But what is very important is that the drivers understand drifting is now way more than what it has been.
Yeah.
And if we wanted to be sustainable, if we wanted to grow, if we wanted to make sense for absolutely everyone involved, we need to. In Germany, we say we need to look over the edge of our plate, right? So we need to look beyond. Yeah, and that's what you're doing, and exactly what you're doing now with going to the mall. To have a competition that you're actually not good enough for, but you still do it for the experience. Is so important, and that's the attitude we need in drifting right now.
And I think that I think it's a great move. To take every opportunity that I have. Just to try and have more experiences. I was really old when I started drifting, and I'm all the time feeling like I don't have so many years left, so I have to do everything I can. Yeah.
I think just driving with people above your level, that's the only way to get better, right?
Yes.
Like you saying like, I'm not at that level. I mean, there's nothing to say that at the end of that weekend that you won't be at their level or better, right? So I think a lot of people are afraid to compete against people who are better than them because they're like, I don't want to lose. And it's like, that's the wrong way to think about it. Yeah. You need to think about it like, I want to lose to these people because I want to figure out how they're beating me and how to get better, right? Yeah. So, that's great. I mean, that's phenomenal that you're thinking kind of that way and going like, I'm going to go because that's how I become a better driver.
I want to learn.
Yeah. You have to. Yeah.
And I think that the fastest way to learn is to fail. So then you learn.
Yeah. That means I learned a lot in life. Sometimes it gets overwhelming, I can tell you, the amount of failing. But it's great.
Yeah, it's easy to figure out why something didn't go well. It's very hard when everything goes perfectly to learn from it because you're like, cool, how do we do that again? I don't know. We just do it. But if something fails, if a part breaks or you transition at the wrong time or whatever, it's very easy to look at that and go, okay, I will never do this again. This is a thing that I did wrong. If I want to be better, I have to stop doing this thing. Whether same thing. Even just the engine, right? You realize that at this point, the engine is what's holding you back from becoming better. And instead of just, beating your head against the wall and trying to repair this and not breaking this engine, you went, all right, just switch to a V8 and let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think drifting has that brutal honesty about it. So that one transition that you didn't do right means you're driving 2,000 kilometers back home. Right. And that's crazy. So preparation should be something I think every driver and team should focus way more. Yeah. Yeah. It's the downtime, the off season is not just to build another crazy car or to whatever repair, what you broke. I think it's way more that analyzing, trying to get better. And but I think we're just at the beginning of it, in at least in European drifting, at the beginning of, okay, what did I do wrong and how can I improve it without waiting 5 months for the next chance to do so? Yeah. And that's something we are just learning. I think the Nordic countries with ice drifting have very good opportunities for that. It was, for me also, I couldn't believe it because after all those years, it was the first time for me sitting in a car that has those, those rally tires, those rally ice spikes. That's crazy, man. It's like the same than using normal street tires on dry asphalt. It's exactly the same thing. It is absolutely nuts. I was the first few laps in the passenger seat, you know, and I was like, we are never going to make this corner ever.
Yeah.
And you just, you know, push the pedal down and it just goes. It's crazy. And I think that is the perfect chance, because the guys were practicing 2 full days, and they got like, I think in total 180, 200 laps per driver. Absolutely crazy. And that is, if you want to finance 200 laps with a pro car on dry asphalt, impossible. You know? Yes, financially absolutely impossible. So I can just really recommend. We will talk soon more about that. The guy where we have been, Olaf, he is practicing with a lot of really, really good guys and pro guys, and he's going to offer that to pro guys, because I think what Rome and Max, what both of them learned last week in those 2 days was crazy, you know. And I was on the passenger seat of Rome, and he was just saying, and I was asking him, okay, can you explain? Because he has that kind of clarity when he's driving. He can fully drive 5 centimeters away from the other car and talk to me like we are sitting there having a coffee. You know, I never could, and I still can't, and I will never be able to do that. But he's just driving and explaining me step by step what he's doing, right? And then he said that, but this and this driver, not saying names now, are using a different technique. And he said, let's just try. And that's the cool thing about that kind of practice, right? And he tried, and it worked. It worked. It was, you can, from a 1,200 horsepower Pro car to a 190 or 200 horsepower BMW, you know, you can still do the same techniques. Mm-hmm. And that was very cool to see. And I think that's something a lot of the European drifters have to pick up. You know, rather spend 2,000-3,000 euro in your off season for that. You know, you can rent a car, you don't have to build your own. Then waiting for the next race, driving to Drift Masters to Spain, you know, for like, I don't know, 3 days in a row driving. And then barely qualifying. And because you didn't get practice, you know, you're out in top 32, and that was your weekend. So, and that's the risk in drifting. It's a very brutal sport, I think.
Yeah, it is.
I think what this is coming down to is that next year we need Ice Drift King, and we set up just a full ice competition.
Let's do
I'm putting it out there.
We already talked about that. To be fair.
Sign me up. I will be there with like 6 layers of hats on, because it's going to be freezing. But I agree.
I'm going to put it in the calendar. Give me a second.
Okay, cool. Ice Drift King, perfect. No, we're seeing more and more people. I mean, especially from the U.S. side coming over, like you said, you know, Rome coming over. That's huge. You know, that's a driver.
Yes,
that's a driver that all he thinks about is how does he get better, right? So, from your perspective, Krisse, like, have you taken a look at some of the drivers that have signed up? Like, what are your feelings kind of looking at that roster? Because it is stacked. I'm not saying you should be worried, but I mean, it is pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. But as we talked earlier, I want to try with better than me drivers. So I will learn a lot. I will have a lot of fun. I know it. And my race car is like a safe place for me. So I might be really scared and nervous before I go to the car. But when I get there, then I'm like in my happy place and everything is okay.
That's great. I'm super jealous. Yeah. That is drifting left a lot of mental damage for me. I can tell you that. And I think I was never mentally cut out for it, to be fair, somehow. And I'm really happy to hear that this is what that does to you, because that's so important. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there anybody? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sometimes when I'm driving my drift car, I might have to go to the pit because I'm crying, and I'm crying because I'm so happy. And
Oh, for real?
Yeah, that happens. And now everyone in our pit, they know if I just sit in the car and my, what is called in the helmet?
Visor.
The visor, if it's closed and I'm just sitting there, they know that, okay, she's crying, so let her be.
I have to say, because I did not expect you to be that for forthcoming and honest here. I appreciate this a lot. So thank you so much. No, it's like you know how this works nowadays. It's all show. There's no real emotions anymore. It's all just made up. So I'm really happy that you tell us about your. I think that's a very private emotion.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that you share that. Because it's cool to hear what you feel, when you're in this call.
So maybe in August you will see me cry. But it's
you will
happy
see me
tears.
cry because I will be so happy what we accomplished. And no, I absolutely understand. I absolutely understand what you go through, and I'm happy that you say it. Right, this is something. This is a side of you guys that no one is seeing usually, and that's that was one of the missions this year with Iron Drift King to get you closer to the fans. To get you to what you experience, closer to the fans. And I can tell you a lot of drivers struggled hard with the task to produce that video.
Yeah.
We still have a few guys that have to do it the third or fourth time because we're not
really?
happy. Yes, it is. No one ever asked that. Right? No one ever asked it. And it seems to be a very difficult task for a lot of guys to just say, hey, my name is, and I'm happy to be there, and and let's go. And that's all we're asking, right? For me, it's very, very natural because I'm that person. Yeah. And and for a lot of guys, that is no problem. They just had to do it. But there's drivers for them. This seems to be the hardest task of the year. And but we don't want to give in. We don't want to just accept that and say, okay, then this is not so good. If we would do that, we would continue drifting how it has been done. And this is what we don't want. We want drifting to grow. And that means you guys in your cars, you're not just good at driving, though. You have to be good at everything. It's a huge task, and we know that. But I think as soon as you understand that this is your business, right, and you try to make it your business, you will treat it differently. If you think that's just an expensive hobby, then you have, I don't want to say you have no place in the future of drifting, but it obviously doesn't matter to you because you can afford it and that's it, right? Yeah. That's also okay. But for everyone else suffering the last 10, 15 years through the financial struggles, the emotional struggles, it's very important to get to the next step. So we need to push. We need to kick our asses. And if you have no idea how to do it, you freaking call a friend.
Yeah.
Right? It is. Yeah. It's just like we're very brutal right now with those guys. And I don't want to be rude. I really don't. But if we don't demand a higher level, we will not get it. And that has been done in drifting also. That's why we have crazy drivers, because the demand for it was there, the tracks were difficult, the judging was harsh, and that's why we have good drivers now. And now we need to be very harsh on the other 99% of drifting, So we will get there.
I think, Krisse, you've done a phenomenal job with like your side of the marketing part of this. I mean, the YouTube series is great. Your social media is top notch. Like, I think for anybody that's listening, that's looking for an example of how to do it, I mean, checking out your social media is it. Is that?
Thank you.
Is that some? Yeah, no worries. No, it's really good to see because you've taken it seriously from the perspective of like, I know I need to do this, I need to do it well, and I need to do it regularly. But you haven't taken it seriously in the regard that like the videos are boring. It's not like they're not like serious where it's just like a scripted, really bad TV show. It's fun. It's exciting. You're, emotional. You get excited. You can see the ups and downs. Yeah. Is that something you've had to work towards, or it's just you've kind of naturally good on camera? What's that process been like?
Well, in the beginning, it was really hard to talk to the camera, of course, but it gets easier, and now it's like an everyday thing. It's not hard anymore. And of course, because this is so important to me, I want to have memories. So it's really good. Like my Instagram is my diary, so it's easy to do it. Yeah,
that's a good
it's an interesting way of seeing it.
Yeah. I think if people look at it in a different way, that helps. And when you say, you want to like document it, that was a big shift for me when I've been making videos for over 10 years. And it was like when I stopped making content for other people and started making content basically for my kids. Yeah. It became very different, and I became very comfortable with it because I was like, I want to be in the same way that like my parents, when I go and visit, will pull out the big photo books, right? Yeah. And you look through all the photos of when we were kids. Yeah. Now my kids can, when I get old, we can sit down and we can watch all these crazy adventures. I documented last year when I went to Iron Drift King from start to finish what the whole thing was like. Yeah. And now my kids can go back and watch it. Be like, that my dad did this thing, right? It became very easy then. Yeah. So true. I think that's a maybe a different way for people to look at it to help them if they're struggling with the why, right? Yeah. Yeah, so. It's hard if you think just like the money, and if you think that I have to do this for the sponsors and stuff like that. But if you do it for yourself, then it's easier. That's a very, very great way of looking at it, because I can tell you, since September, when I started working, like 3 weeks after the last year's Iron Drift King, when I started working for 2024, I think I learned a lot about myself, because the amount that I had the chance to listen to other people now, in their perspective, helped me a lot of seeing that. You just said, when you just do it for the money, right? Like sponsor money, or because it's your task. And that did something, because I could instantly name like 100 situations where I know that drivers just do it because of it, right? Mm-hmm. And that must feel horrible, because I had that when I was driving, that I cannot forget, I cannot forget to do this. And and we just talked about it also in Sweden, guys were fixing cars. And just when they were completely ready, then they made a very short video. They have like 5 minutes time, just short video for one of the companies. But that part that was important for that sponsor, that could have been done even when the car was not ready, right? Yeah. But our focus is first, okay, let's get the cars ready, let's do everything. And then doing that marketing part that is so important for our partners that we have comes last. Right, because we are actually not doing it for ourselves, we do it for someone else, and that's a huge problem. It's a great thing that you said that, and I can just hope that a lot of drivers are listening to this and thinking like, yes, I always see it as a negative thing, as a necessity, as I have to do this because it's in my contract, kind of, and just do it for yourself. Just do it because you want to get better. Just do it because you enjoy it. Because at some point you will enjoy it. And Jacob, when you said that you did it for your kids, same for me. I've never been comfortable. That's why my Instagram is real bad, because I don't post anything. But I have the feeling I don't need to necessarily, right? This is, I post when I really want to share. But my adventures now, I record them because I want that my daughter has this kind of memory, we can look back at it. Like I have been doing an 8-day trip just with my daughter in October in her vacation, and we did so many cool things, and I made a diary of every single day, and nice. I enjoyed it. And now I have no issue being with the camera in front of me at the airport where there's 1,000 people, and I can just talk into it like I don't care. Before that was a huge problem for me. Yeah, that's still hard for me. Like those big, as somebody who like speaks in front of thousands of people all the time. Yeah. As soon as I'm holding a camera to do it, it's very different. Like it is. I have seen today in an underground garage. It was one of the supermarkets here, and there was a guy with a ring light standing in front of in the parking garage, and his friend was filming him. Like I don't know what they recorded, but I was so happy to see that, because that's our world right now, right? Yeah. And my generation almost missed it. Like I'm turning 40 this year, so it was almost too late for me, I would say. But the generation that came after me, that is now like 25 years old, for this is their time, right? This is what they do, and I almost think this is what you have to do right now. You have to be good at that, because it's just what the world wants from you. So, and if you have a good time doing it, this will show. Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
It's important.
And one really important part in the social media for me is that if I can show maybe at least one little girl that you can do this and you can drive and this is awesome, then I'm really happy. So that's one reason why I want to do the videos and Instagram.
Do you feel any pressure with that, like being a woman in this space?
I wanted to ask
having,
same thing. Yeah,
yeah.
It's like very interesting to me. Yeah,
yeah, same. Like obviously, it's not something Marcel and I are dealing with, but I there's no way for me to truly appreciate what that pressure is like to not just perform and compete and do well, but also be an ambassador for other little girls who might want to get in or don't know yet that they want to get in.
Yeah, of course there's pressure. Like in the DMEC, when I get the wild card, and I knew that I will be driving on the qualification as a first driver. So it was the first time we had DMEC in Finland. It was the first time that there was a female driver. I was the first one to do like the competition lap.
yeah.
So when I was on the start line, the only thing in my head was that I cannot do a 0. Like I just can't. And I didn't. And on the second run, it was better. But yeah, the pressure, it was like never before. It was really bad.
Krisse, you did a great run. I was watching and I said to my wife, I said, I'm super surprised. You did a really good run. A wildcard driver will never score as high as a driver that is regularly, and that is a problem with judging. And I'm not calling out now the DMEC judges. That's not what. That's really not my point. But my point is, a wildcard driver will never get as many points as a regular driver who comes 20 starters after you and does the exact same run. He gets definitely 10 points more than you. That's a fact. Please prove me wrong, internet. But
oh, they will. If it exists, they will. Trust me.
I know. But I just mean that you did a great job, right? And that pressure must be crazy. But do you have the feeling? It's hard to because you're also not a man, so it's hard to compare. But you have Juha, who is your partner, who has been drifting also a decade now at least, right? I think Juha was the first time I've seen him in Finland. He was driving an E36 S50. I think it was a right one. Yes,
E30 before that.
Yeah, so he's drifting over 10 years already.
Yeah,
and
maybe 15.
Yeah, something like this, right? So, do you think there's a difference between you as a woman driving and him as a man? Like, is there any difference? I don't want to go too deep in this topic because I'm super interested in it. You know, because I have been growing up just with my mom. I didn't have a dad at home. So for me, a woman was always the exact same level, if you want to call it that, as a man. I never had that emotion ever in my life that I felt like a woman is less than a man. It's just a different gender and that's it. But I'm sorry too. But do you think there's a difference?
Yeah, there is, because if you are like one of the men, you can just fail or drive into the wall or do something, and it's not like a big of a deal. But if you're the only woman and then you fail, then everyone will know and talk about it. It's
like people are looking for a reason. They're wanting a reason to doubt you, right?
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes. Yeah. Of course, not everyone, but at least sometimes it feels like that. And when I'm the only woman, I also feel like that if I fail for every female. You know what I'm saying? If I do good, then I do good for everyone. So it's
That's a crazy amount of pressure that you put on yourself.
Yeah, it's heavy. It's very heavy.
I shouldn't do that, but
I think no man ever did that.
Yeah.
No, for real. Yeah. I failed for the other. I cannot even relate to the Ford.
Oh.
But I get why you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
I mean, there's almost nothing that's comparable on our side of things. So I couldn't imagine that. I mean, yeah, that's crazy. Well, I mean, I think it should just show people like how much more you're dealing with at the line and in battle than anybody else. Like, you know, you do your best to clear your head and try and get into a good mental space and not think about anything. But there's always going to be something in the back of your, you know, the back of your head that's kind of nagging that. So when you are able to overcome it, that's such a bigger triumph than somebody who doesn't have to deal with that pressure.
But sometimes I actually use that because it was the first time that I drove to the podium on Finnish Drift Championship race, like on the pro level. On the lineup, I went to the guy who was about to drive against me. And I said to him that you didn't come all the way here to lose to a girl. And then he did lose to a girl. So
It's savage.
Yeah. And I did that to everyone that I was about to drive against.
Okay.
And I took third place on that race. So
you obviously understand how to use that. This is great because this is. I think that is, you're a fighter, obviously.
Yeah.
Right, and that's. Man, I'm so happy that I accepted your application because I didn't know that much about you. You know, of course I knew you and I know you since a long time. But there's so much more to you, you know, than I didn't know. Now I'm happy that you share this here with all of us, and I can't wait to see you on track, you know. And we are going to, when you said that you're practicing the sim. So what we're going to do with all the Iron Drift King drivers, we are going to have multiple Iron Drift King sim competitions. 2 worlds.
Oh, great.
In the next months. Yeah, nice. You know, but not with. You cannot practice 1,000 laps. It will be limited to like 20 laps. That's what you also get in real life. You know, that's already a lot. But in sim, people just go. And at some point it gets very unrealistic because no one would be able to drive on that level in real life. Yeah. And so we're going to make it as real as we can. You know, you will have the chance to interact with judges because they will be there. You know, so because we want to hear also drivers' perspective on how they felt how the battle just went. You know, because in any competition right now, you never have the chance to talk to the judges. You know, because the next run, and then afterwards you ask and they say, yeah, you did something wrong. You know, but you still don't really know what was the deciding factor. Judging and drifting is a very complicated process and often very not relatable. So we want to make sure this is different in the Iron Drift King, and those practice competitions will help all of you to be at the absolute maximum, starting level. You know, you can be it before you hit the track the very first time. So the fans will benefit greatly from that. Greatly, because you all will be on a very, very high level, you know, when you go into actual competition.
That's great.
Yeah. I think that's such an important part about this competition over a lot of different competitions and series is that everybody talks about, I want to put on the best show, right? Like that's always the kind of the tagline when it comes to a big drifting comp. It's like, oh, we're going to put on the best show. That's great. It's cool to have the fireworks and all the other stuff. Yeah. And I know Iron Drift King is going to have some incredible stuff. But at the end of the day, what puts on the best show is insane battles from the first one to the end, right? You don't want it where people show up at top 16 and they go, oh, this is all I'm going to watch. You want it where people sit down at the first battle and go, this is incredible. Or even before that at practice, right? Like I've been to drifting competitions where the practice was almost better than the actual show because of like how hard everyone was driving. And I'm like, like, do they not know that this isn't the competition yet? Like this is, we're just warming up, guys. So that's doing stuff like this, like having these sim competitions, having the way that, you know, the non-qualifying is working, the amount of practice, the tire rules, everything, all of that goes towards not just the show as a whole, but the part that we all show up for, which is the actual competition.
100%.
It's like just trying to bring everybody up to a new level, which is wild. It's just a different way to think about the show.
We have to accept it for the fact that it is a show. It is a real motorsport. Like in Europe, when we hear the word show, it sounds like, okay, we are talking about WWE or, like where it is a real sport what they're doing, those guys, right? It's a very difficult thing when they're jumping on top of each other and not getting hurt, but it is decided who will be the winner and who is not. And in drifting, that's very much not the case. So when we hear show in Europe, we automatically associate it with something bad. Right, it's with something bought, with something pre-decided, and that's not the case. Drifting is a sport that is supposed to entertain because it has so many layers of entertainment value,
Yeah.
And I think, as you said, Jacob, the better the drivers are prepared, the better the actual race, the actual show will be. Right? This is, I think that's something we need to understand in Europe. And Iron Drift King, I can tell you, we understood that. And that's why we very much, we work so hard on the fact that every driver needs to be on point, and that process, I can tell you, is very energy and time consuming, because getting 64 guys to understand that as well is not a simple thing, and we are soon going into deeper communication with all the drivers about the actual plan, about what's happening next. And it's like a classroom full of very, very hyperactive kids. It is very difficult to get everyone's attention. I can tell you that. And but yeah, I think to be a drifter and to be a drifter at this level, you need to, I don't want to say you need to be crazy, but I mean, like,
you gotta be a
you
little
need
crazy.
to be different,
Yeah.
right? It's
You have to stand out.
Yes.
That's to get noticed, right?
Yeah.
So, and some people can just do that by the way they are, and some people need to do something. And I mean, different liveries and pit spaces and things like that, or driving styles. Like everyone's kind of got their own thing. So, but yeah, I do agree. You have to find where you belong in the sport. And then that's how people gravitate. And Krisse, like you said, producing that content, being very honest about how everything's going, even just being super honest here, like that makes things very relatable. And I'm hoping, honestly, like when we finally get to hang out in person too, that it's, at the pits, it's the same thing. Like you'll be available and everybody will be able to hang out with you and everything else. And they can learn in person what it's like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the hardest part for me is to show aggression when I drive. Like every time I'm driving, I get the feedback that you have to be more aggressive. It's the hardest part for me in drifting. But yeah.
I think once you change engines, honestly, that'll change a lot of it, to be honest. Just having more faith in the engine, you'll be able to drive harder because you don't have to worry about it. You already said you're only driving at 50%.
Yeah.
Well, you at 50% scares the hell out of me for 100. Because like, if you've gotten this far at that point, like you're literally going to double performance as soon as you trust everything.
Yeah, but I think it's also the thing that I really love driving. So I'm like too happy to be aggressive. So I'm not sure if it shows, but let's see how it goes when the engine...
you will find a way. You will find a way. It's now we talk way too much about you performing. So you have to. And now you will figure it out. So you will figure it out, and like everyone else on the other 63 opponents that you're going to have. So everyone needs to be on point in order to make the trip worth the while. In order to justify the risk you're all taking. And I just. The topic for today's episode, as I both told you earlier, is like, why is it so special to drive the Iron Drift King from a driver's perspective? And it was great to hear from you how much effort it means. It's like it's not just the financial side, it's not just the team side. It's there's so many emotions involved, and we hope as an organization that we justify everything that you guys do, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm really
looking
think
forward.
it starts already when you like go to the driver's check-in before you even turn to the road that leads you to the Ferropolis. You know, the atmosphere already starts there, because everything is like, every detail is like spot on. And when you go,
I'm getting goosebumps when you say
Yeah.
it. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that you
The
see
German
it.
in you is so excited right now.
Yes, like, because the level this year will be like so much more up than we had it before.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
we have planned things. Just when I called you in the night, you know, when I drove to the airport, we have actually been there to plan the location there, and we have talked things we have never even talked before, and they worked out. But now we have planned them actually, like through hours and hours and hours about something. I said that, how did we do it the last 4 times? You know, like same thing. But now I'm happy to hear that. I'm sorry that I stopped you, but this gets me so excited. I'm so excited for this year's Iron Drift King, and I'm always. But we have the chance to do something so big, you know, all of us together, and I'm just looking forward to it.
Yeah, and when I said that my race car is like my happy place, but it's like when you go to Ferropolis, the whole island is your happy place, because everyone is there for drifting, and everyone loves drifting. So, yeah, it's a different thing.
It's its
It makes me
own
so
little
happy.
world.
I cannot believe.
Well, I think because of, I mean, not just like the location, like it's this island peninsula thing, like it's locked off. So like everywhere you go, until you go back into the real world, which
Yeah.
you really don't even need to.
Yeah, and you don't want
It's
to.
just no. Like I think I left once to like go grab something at a gas station. I was like, oh, I forgot that like the real world exists outside of
it's
the
out
island.
there.
Yeah. It's very strange in that way that everybody has one singular love, and it's of drifting, and it doesn't
Yeah.
matter who you run into, right?
Yeah.
It's
And-
because it's fun when you find somebody who loves drifting outside of drifting, right? Like
Yeah.
you have a conversation, then you realize like they're wearing something, they've got a hat, and you're like, oh, you love drifting too.
Yeah.
But then you go to a place where like everybody is that way. It's so neat.
Yeah. And last year I realized that usually when we go out like around Europe and we are at the pit, then at some point everyone wants to leave like to a grocery store or something, just to see the town and everything. But when we are in Ferropolis, no one wants to leave. We are like, now someone
Oh
has
God,
to go.
I'm going to cry here. This means so. That. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That means
It's
so much
special.
to me, really, because this is why we do this. You know, to. Oh no, you're
Oh,
gone.
can you still hear me?
Yes,
Yeah, we got you
but your
now.
picture stopped now.
That's all good. Happens.
It worked flawless for.
It was
the
going so
longest
well.
time.
There had to be something.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I think it's a very curated experience to do that, right? To be able to not have to leave to go do anything, to not have to check back in with the reality. That's what
Yeah.
it is, right? It's why we go on vacation. We go
Yeah.
on vacation to leave reality,
Yeah.
right? To escape everything that sucks about everyday life. And this is the exact same thing, but the difference is that like it's not a beach where, you know, you're just laying there relaxing. You're relaxing, but you're also incredibly excited at the same time. It's such a strange feeling.
Yeah, it is.
So, yeah, I'm pumped. I mean, I'm obviously very excited to come in, and I'm excited to meet more and more drivers. And for me, you know, I very much like that I'm somebody that's not from Europe that gets to do this, because it expands so much of what I get to learn as somebody who loves the sport. So, my favorite part is like trying to convince everybody from North America to make the trip over and be like,
Yeah.
listen, it's worth it. It's 100% worth it.
Yeah,
Like just do it. Just
absolutely.
book the flight, make the trip, right? Because it's a far drive for you too. It's not like it's around the corner.
No, but it's closer than Spain. So
By a lot, yeah. By a lot, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. No, it's good. I'm very happy that you applied and obviously got accepted, and that you because it's so early, like the application's so early, like you very much have to think far ahead to make this trip happen too, right? Like, this wasn't a last minute decision, that's for sure.
But I haven't all figured it out yet, how to do it, like financially. But I have 6 months, so I will figure it out.
One of the reasons that we put out the application so early, we know this creates a challenge, but we want that everyone who is participating is there because he or she really wants it.
Yeah.
It's not just there's nothing else, and I just fill the gap in my calendar. No, we want that everyone who is applying is 100% ready for it and is appreciating what we are doing, because we do it essentially for teams and fans, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we do this so early. It meant a lot what you just said, earlier, and because the intention was always to create a special experience for everyone there, and it's great to hear that we accomplished that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, because until someone tells you that, I can tell myself stories all day long, right? I can live in my cloud, and just believe that we are great, but this doesn't mean we are. And to hear that is fantastic. Thank you so much. I think the whole Iron Drift King team is very happy to hear those words, and especially Marcus, who had the idea about this whole thing and who thought it's possible, and then first convinced me, and we had to convince so many people to make this happen. So I'm really happy to hear that, and everyone who doesn't have a ticket, they should get one, because that is. Yeah, obviously, coming from me, it sounds like marketing, but coming from you guys, it's real, and it's a very special place. And I think this reality thing that you said, that like being there and then going out, is so weird. It's the same for me. After 8 days there, coming back home, I need like a whole week to get back to normal. Oh. Like my head cannot even switch it off. It's super complicated every year, and I don't want it to end. It has to end, but I don't want it to end. Really not.
I think the part of any cool experience that everybody forgets about is when you're there, when you're doing anything awesome, it's great in the moment, but it's all the stories afterwards that are almost better, right? Where you get to relive it, or you get to share it with somebody else. Like, you for me, I get to go on a lot of adventures, and I get to come home and tell friends and family and stuff like that. Or even better, when you go with friends and then you see them 6 months later and you're like, do you remember when, this thing happened and we got to do that? And even people I met last year, I'm still in really good contact with, and we still swap stories about what happened, last year, parts of the event, and even just hanging out, like just sitting there watching the event and talking about nothing, right?
Yeah.
That an entire day of where like you talk about everything but at nothing at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just the memories of it.
That's what it is, right?
Yeah. But, yeah. It's a place where you can just live and breathe drifting, and then eventually have to go home.
Yeah.
So.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's the hardest part is when it ends.
Absolutely.
But and then Marcel takes 3 weeks off and then starts planning the next year right after that.
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah, it's hard to imagine that that you're planning already the next after that, because this year's Iron Drift King and all the changes we are doing it's so big. And it's like it's filling every day of my week. I really have to control myself to work more efficiently and to get it all done. It's so big, and it's not just me. It's so many people around me that have a big influence on the changes we are making, and it's hard to imagine that we do it all over again just 2 or 3 weeks after. That's a weird thought, but it gets us so excited. And not just the drivers, the fans, the sponsors, everyone will feel the love we have for what we are doing, and the amount of work that has went in, and I think I have 8 extra guys, 5 from Finland, 3 from Sweden, that want to come and help, like for free. They take off 1 week vacation, of their yearly vacation that they have, and just come and help because they are so excited about it. And that gets more and more and more. It's that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's great.
Because every great adventure, also economic success, starts with people not getting paid for what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. So if there's no one motivated enough to trying to make a change, there will be no change. That's a fact. So I'm happy that so many people got excited about it, and great. I will go home so happy after this recording. Really, it's
that's good,
man. That's fantastic.
Krisse, I thank you so much for taking a bit of time to chat with us. If people want to find out more about you and what you do, we'll drop some links down below in the description anyways. But anything else to add in?
No, I don't think so. I will see you in August.
Yeah, we'll see you in August.
Great.
Marcel, thanks again for the conversation. Always great chatting. And for everybody listening and or watching at home, please grab your tickets. I know they're moving quickly.
They do.
So if you want a spot, this is your call. If you're listening or watching in North America, it's worth the trip. 100% worth the trip. So
absolutely worth the trip. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Any last words, Marcel, or?
No, man, I'm just happy. I'm like, this deeply. My heart is so full right now. This is how I can say it. I appreciate a lot what you guys think about the event, and Krisse, thank you for being so open and honest about what you're going through as a driver, and can't wait to see all of you in real life. Latest in August. And in real life, is this in person? It's called
in person. There you go.
I can't wait to see you in person. And man, thank you so much for your time, Jacob. Have a good flight. You're leaving soon, right? After that, of course, it's Sunday, so that's what you do. And Krisse, thank you again. And,
thanks for having me.
No worries.
Thank you.
We'll chat with everybody soon. Thanks again.
Yes. All right.
Drift Island, the Iron Drift King podcast, hosted by Marcel Uhlig and Jacob Gettins.